In the year 2025, something happened that nobody saw coming. The world was sleeping, but one phone call in the middle of the night changed everything. At exactly 3:17 a.m., silence was broken, and what followed was not a friendly talk. It was sharp, cold, and heavy, like a storm about to break. That moment carried more weight than anyone could imagine, and it set in motion a story that would shake the earth. What happened next would make the powerful tremble, and it would leave millions holding their breath, waiting to see what came after. Brothers and sisters, gather close. I want to share a story that shows what real strength looks like. It is about one African leader who would not bend, even when the world expected him to. His choice shook everything. It all started at 3:17 in the morning. The phone rang loudly in the still night. This was not an ordinary call. It was not friendly talk. No, this was something heavy, more like a threat than a conversation. On the other end of the line was Benjamin Netanyahu. His voice was sharp and cold, slicing through the silence. He was not asking politely. He was giving orders. He demanded control and expected only one answer: yes. But the man he called was not the type to bow. That man was Captain Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso, young in age, but with a heart blazing like fire. Netanyahu spoke with the weight of power, warning of danger and war if Traoré refused. He told him to betray his people, to abandon Africa's pride and freedom. He thought fear would break him. He thought surrender would come quickly. But Traoré stayed silent, and the silence felt as if the whole world was waiting for his reply. Then came the words that changed everything. Africa is no longer your pawn. If fire must come, let it come. But we will not kneel. Those words echoed like drums of freedom across the night. For years, African leaders had been pushed and pressed. They were told to give up resources and remain quiet. But this time was different. Traoré said no. The ultimatum meant to scare him became a moment of courage. Netanyahu had expected obedience. Instead, he found resistance. He had expected weakness. Instead, he met strength. Inside Traoré's room, his advisors exchanged worried glances. They knew the dangers. They knew what it meant to stand against a powerful nation. They whispered of sanctions, of hidden attacks, of war in the shadows. History carried many warnings of leaders who defied and were later destroyed. Yet Traoré's heart was set. He believed Africa's young people deserved a better story. They deserved freedom, not fear. And so, he chose to stand. News of the call traveled quickly. At first it was only whispers, but soon it spread like fire. Across Burkina Faso, the people spoke of it with pride. In the streets, students lifted their voices. Farmers, workers, and families smiled with hope. For the first time in many years, they felt power in their own hands. Their leader had not bowed. He had stood tall. Beyond Burkina Faso, leaders across Africa heard the story. Some were afraid, saying Traoré had gone too far, that he would bring trouble. But others saw the truth. They realized if one leader could say no, then others could too. If one voice could refuse, then many voices could join together. The phone call was no longer about one man. It had become about the soul of Africa. The Western world reacted fast. News outlets called Traoré reckless. Politicians warned he was risking his country's future. Governments spoke of punishment. But in Africa, the people saw something different. They saw a hero who refused to kneel. That courage stirred their hearts. They knew it would not be easy. They knew powerful nations would push back. But courage is stronger than fear, and that night proved it. Traoré was not naive. He knew enemies would come. He knew the path ahead would be stormy. But he also knew there was no turning back. He would not sell his country's pride for safety. He would not exchange dignity for peace. He chose freedom, even if it cost him dearly. In that choice, he lit a flame that could not be put out. The call lasted only moments, but its echo spread far and wide. In villages and towns, people spoke of it as if it were legend. Children saw Traoré as a symbol of bravery. Youth marched with new energy, chanting that Africa would rise. The old order trembled. Power was shifting, not through weapons or wealth, but through words. Simple words spoken with iron courage. Around the world, questions began to rise. What if other African leaders did the same? What if the continent united? What if Africa refused to bow forever? These questions frightened the powerful more than anything else. They did not fear one man, they feared the birth of a movement. They feared millions of Africans standing together and saying, "We will not kneel." When the call ended, Traore stood alone in the silence of the night. His mind raced with thoughts of what lay ahead. He knew storms were coming. He knew the risks were high. But he also knew something deeper. History would not forget. It would remember this as a turning point. It would remember that one man said no, and in that no, he spoke for a whole continent. That is why the world shifted at 3:17 a.m. Not because of a threat, but because of courage. Not because of fear, but because of defiance. One African leader chose to stand, and in doing so, he gave hope to millions. The night will not be remembered as a time of warning. It will be remembered as the night of defiance. The night Africa stood tall in the dark and declared, "We will not kneel." Those words will not fade. One day, when the story of Africa's rise is told, people will look back to that moment. A phone call meant to spread fear became the seed of freedom. A command meant to crush instead gave birth to courage. And that is why history will always remember 3:17 a.m. as the hour Africa found its voice and began to rise. Stay with us, watch until the end, and don't miss a single detail, because this is a story the world tried to hide. If you want to understand how one moment in the dark could change the future of nations, make sure you follow along, share this with others, and subscribe for more hidden truths that the powerful don't want you to know.